The gravel crunched under my tires sharper than usual, like the house itself was warning me. I slowed to a stop in front of 4 unfamiliar vehicles, none of them the usual landscaper or neighbor's car. An SUV with out-of-state plates, a van with floral decals, a small silver sedan, double-parked like someone thought they owned the place. They didn't. This was my home. I stepped out slowly, the ocean air brushing against my neck. I was supposed to be here alone. That was the deal I made with myself every Friday. Coffee, a good book, silence. The kind of stillness you earn after 40 years of late nights, early alarms, and forgotten birthdays. A woman's voice, cheerful and crisp, floated from the backyard. No, the arch goes there. I want it framed against the trees, not the house. I didn't recognize it at first. Then I did. Celeste. I moved toward the gate, already swinging open. My feet paused at the threshold of the yard. Rows of white folding chairs, a wooden arch draped in sheer fabric. Tables, cords, flower arrangements, coolers of ice. A dozen people working as if they belonged. And in the middle of it all, Celeste, clipboard in hand, pointing with purpose. She turned at the sound of the gate. Her face lit up with the kind of smile people save for magazine covers and damage control. "Oh, hi, Delia. You're back early." She walked toward me, all sunshine and fake surprise. "You were supposed to be away this weekend." "I wasn't," I said flatly. She laughed, a quick, brittle sound. "Well, this is for Brandon's wedding, my brother, remember? We already sent the invites out like a month ago." My eyes moved to a nearby table stacked with envelopes. Elegant cream stationery, gold lettering. I stepped closer. There it was, plain as day. Martian House, 124 Bramble Cove, Cape Scar, Maine. My address. I blinked once, twice. Celeste kept talking something about seating charts and shrimp platters. But all I heard was my own heartbeat, loud and steady, like the tide crashing against rock. I turned back toward my car, her voice trailing behind me, and drove without looking back. I didn't drive home. Not yet. I took the long way around the cove, letting the road bend and curve while my thoughts did the same. A small sign outside the old marina advertised smoked fish and local honey. I barely saw it. My fingers curled tighter around the steering wheel as the house receded behind me. The Marchand House, she'd called it. As if it were a brand, a venue. But it wasn't. It was mine. 5 years of overtime at the district office. 5 years of skipped summer vacations of buying discount groceries and saying no to everything that wasn't essential. I remember patching my shoes with glue in year 3. I remember the promotion I earned just by staying when others quit or collapsed. And I remember the moment I signed the deed. No co-signer, no spouse, just me standing in that empty living room echoing with potential. I'd brought a folding chair and a thermos of coffee that first day, sat alone and listened to the waves roll in. Peace. That was the word that came to me then and every weekend since. When I retired, the house became more than a break. It became a boundary. It was the one space in my life that hadn't been reshaped by other people's expectations. Until now. I pulled into the parking lot behind my apartment building and sat for a moment in the silence. My hands trembled slightly. Not with fear, but with something colder, disbelief maybe. Or the dull ache of seeing something you built treated like a casual convenience. The key. I'd given them one. Just in case, I said. Just in case there was an emergency. Not for parties, not for borrowed weekends. Not for 150 wedding guests I'd never met. I locked the car, walked upstairs, and set my bag down. The apartment smelled faintly of cedar and old books. I closed the window. I didn't want the breeze. I made coffee and sat at the table staring at the untouched crossword I'd printed that morning. They used my house. And they assumed I'd let them. It wasn't the first time. That's what made it worse. This wasn't a one-time mistake or a misunderstanding. It was a pattern, one I had quietly allowed. I remembered the first time I came down for a weekend and found the fridge filled with unfamiliar wine coolers and a pile of damp towels heaped in the guest bathroom. Celeste had brought her friends for a girls' weekend. I hadn't been informed. When I called to ask gently, she'd laughed and said, "You weren't using it right." The next time it was my sister showing up unannounced with her grandkids, tracked sand-broken shells on the porch, a pink plastic shovel left in my potted lavender. My nephew borrowed the grill once left the propane tank empty and the lid crusted with grease. Each time I'd say something, not sharply, not enough. And each time my son would say the same thing. "She didn't think you'd mind." Maybe that was the problem. They didn't think about me at all. I brought my laptop to the couch, still feeling hollow from the drive. I opened the browser, typed slowly. Brandon Harper. Wedding Cape Scar. The results loaded instantly. There it was. A full website complete with RSVP form engagement photos and a timeline of weekend events. I clicked through with numb fingers. Ceremony Saturday at 5 p.m. Location. The Marchand Estate, 124. Bramble Cove, Cape Scar, Maine. My address. The photos were from my backyard. My trellis, my lawn. My white railing angled to look almost staged. A photo of Celeste and Brandon toasting champagne with the caption "Venue secured." So grateful to my amazing in-laws. My name wasn't mentioned. Just my house. As if it had no owner, no walls, no history. I closed the laptop carefully. The quiet in the room was too clean, like the moment before a thunderstorm. They didn't think I'd mind. They counted on it. I stood up and went to my desk drawer. Inside, a file labeled Property Marchand. I pulled it out and laid it flat. It was time to remember what my name meant when it stood alone. I called Fran first. If there was one person in the family who couldn't keep a secret, it was her. She answered on the second ring, breathless and bright. "Delia. Oh, isn't it exciting? The beach house is going to look beautiful in the photos." "What do you mean?" I asked, though I already knew. "For the wedding, of course. Celeste said you offered it. So generous of you." She didn't pause long enough to hear the silence on my end. "We're all driving down Thursday. Can't wait to see it in person." I thanked her, I think. I don't remember hanging up, but I do remember sitting very still afterward, as if movement might shatter something delicate. Offered it. That was the story now. I called my son next. His voice was cautious. He must have already seen my name flash across his screen. "Mom," he said, "I was going to call you. You let her plan a wedding at my house." He hesitated. "It's just one weekend. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Come on, Mom. We figured it was fine. You weren't using it." She never asked. He sighed. "She didn't think you'd mind." There it was again, that phrase. Worn out from overuse. I ended the call without answering him. I needed space, not reasons. Later that evening, I opened my door to find Celeste standing there with a plastic container of lemon bars and the same bright grin she wore at every family brunch. "I brought these to say thank you," she said. "I know things got a little tangled, but it's too late to change anything now. The invitations are already out." She handed me the container like it was proof of peace. I took it, said nothing. I didn't argue. I didn't protest. Not then. I just watched how easily she assumed the role of the bride's sister-in-law turned hostess. How naturally she moved through my doorway like it was hers. After she left, I set the container down untouched, and something inside me stopped retreating. It didn't flare into rage. Not yet, but it settled into something steadier, something solid, resolve. The next morning, I went to see my son. He invited me over just to talk. That was how he phrased it, as if we were equals at a table rather than a mother being managed by her son. Celeste wasn't there when I arrived, just the scent of something sugary cooling on the stove and an open window letting in too much sun. He poured coffee into a mug I'd given him years ago. "She's out with the caterer," he said. "She really wants this to go well." I sat across from him and nodded. "And I really want to understand how we got here." He shifted, ran a hand through his hair. "I know it looks bad, but honestly, Mom, it's not that deep. She thought it would be easier to just move forward." "You mean skip the part where you ask?" He looked away. "We didn't think you'd say no. That was supposed to explain everything." His phone buzzed on the counter beside him. He stood. "I'll be right back," he said, disappearing into the hallway with a rushed excuse about garbage pickup. The screen lit up again. I didn't mean to look, but it was there. Fam chat. "Bring more ice to Delia's house setup starts early." I touched the screen. Inside, a stream of photos from my backyard. My chairs, my porch, my trees. Aunt Sheila asking about parking for the out-of-towners. Celeste replying with a laughing emoji. "No worries. We've got it all under control." At the top, a pinned message, Celeste. "Don't worry. She's too polite to fight." I scrolled further. An email notification from her inbox wedding planner. Confirmation subject final prep for the Marchand estate, secured for full weekend use. Address my house. No rental agreement, no signature, just assumption. I locked the phone again and placed it exactly where it had been. When he returned, I smiled, told him I appreciated the coffee, and let myself out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't need to. The part of me that had kept asking for consideration had finally gone quiet. By the time I reached my apartment, I already knew what came next. The next morning, I opened my notebook and wrote one sentence at the top of the page. Do not explain. Act. I didn't text my son. I didn't call Celeste. I stopped trying to be heard by people who had never once paused to listen. By 10 o'clock, I had a locksmith scheduled. He met me at the beach house that afternoon, a quiet man in a navy sweatshirt who didn't ask questions. I stood on the porch as he replaced the front and side door locks, then handed me 2 new keys. Just you, he asked, holding one out. Just me, I said. I installed the cameras myself. 4 discrete black ones that synced straight to my phone. 1 above the garage. 1 facing the side path. 2 angled toward the backyard. I tested each one twice. Every time someone crossed the porch, I'd know. Afterward, I sat at the dining table, my chairs, and opened my laptop. I'd seen a flyer last year at the coffee shop about Sandbend Coastal Retreats, a local company that booked high-end short-term rentals for business events and retreats. They'd been looking for properties with beach access. I filled out their online inquiry form, attached recent photos of the house, and waited. The reply came an hour later. Polite, professional, eager. They loved the location. Needed a space for a weekend team-building retreat. The same weekend, Celeste's brother planned to walk down an aisle he didn't pay for. I read the rental terms 3 times. There was a clause for exclusive use setup time and liability coverage. It was clear, legal, and mine to sign. At 5:43 p.m., I typed my full name in the signature box and hit send. Contract active. Non-refundable. The silence in the house felt different afterward, not absence but control. I walked through each room, noting every detail where the linens sat, which drawers were locked, how the sun hit the corner of the kitchen wall. I locked the door behind me. I parked across the street just after 9, same spot. I used to sit in years ago while waiting for the roofing crew to show. Back then, the house had felt like a project. Now, it felt like proof. Through the windshield, I saw the white folding chairs already arranged in neat arcs across the lawn. Celeste stood in the center of it all. Her clipboard angled like a conductor's baton. She waved a hand toward the arch, shouted something I couldn't hear, and spun around to direct someone else toward the patio. Behind her, a woman wheeled in crates of wine. 2 men carried a full-length mirror down the side path. A van labeled Fresh Florals Co. idled near the curb. They moved like clockwork, like this was theirs. I sat still, coffee warm between my palms, the car engine off. I didn't need to be closer. Not yet. At 10:07, the first of the Sandbend vans rolled in. A white vehicle with tinted windows and the company's name printed cleanly along the door. 2 more followed. 7 uniformed staff stepped out, clipboards in hand, calm and direct. One woman, tall and silver-haired, approached Celeste, who greeted her with a distracted smile. I watched the moment her face changed. Confusion, resistance, denial. Then the manager handed her the printed contract. My phone began to buzz. 1 missed call, then 3, then 7. Names flashed and vanished. My son, Fran Celeste. No voicemails. Just constant calling. I let them ring. The front gate swung open again. A car pulled in. Then another. Wedding guests by the looks of it. A woman stepped out in a pale dress, holding a clutch and looking around with growing concern. Celeste turned in circles, gesturing wildly now, pointing at the Sandbend team, her voice rising. Her mother appeared beside her, red-faced and shaking her head. My son stood farther back, jaw-tight, hands at his sides. They hadn't prepared for this. The phone buzzed again. This time, I answered. "What did you do?" Celeste hissed through the line. "There are strangers here. They say they have a contract." I looked through the glass, watching her flail. "I do," I said, "and it's signed." They invited me to dinner like it was an olive branch, but I knew what it really was, a staged intervention. The kind that comes with pointed stares, pre-rehearsed lines, and a full table set for persuasion. We met at their house. Celeste was already seated, her eyes red-rimmed, a linen napkin, twisted tight in her lap. My son stood when I entered, offering a nervous half-smile, as if that could undo the last 48 hours. I sat down. No hugs, no small talk. Celeste sniffled. I had this vision, and it meant so much to everyone. I never thought that you'd be told no. I offered, voice calm. Her tears came faster now. "You've embarrassed me. My family. Guests flew in from out of state. People are asking questions." My son shifted beside her. "Mom, couldn't you have just waited until after the wedding? We could have worked it out." I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila folder. Quietly, I placed it on the table and opened it. Inside, photos of muddy footprints across my bedroom carpet, a receipt for deck furniture repair after one of Celeste's parties, screenshots of texts ignored, calendar entries of every time someone showed up unannounced, and finally, the Sandbend rental agreement signed, time-stamped, legally binding. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I simply showed them what I'd lived with. Years of being taken for granted, dressed up as family closeness. They flipped through the papers in silence. My son's fingers hovered over the receipt for the broken porch swing. Celeste's expression shifted from shame to something harder to name. We sat in the silence that followed. No one touched their plates. I didn't stay for dessert. By the time I got home, the porch light was already on, and I knew who I'd be hearing from next. The doorbell rang 3 days after the dinner. I knew it would be them before I even checked the peephole. Some silences carry a weight that announces what's coming before it arrives. I opened the door to find them both standing there. My son with his hands in his jacket pockets. Celeste a step behind him, arms folded, her expression unreadable. Neither of them spoke first. "Come in," I said. They followed me to the living room, sitting stiffly on the edge of the couch like visitors unsure if they were welcome. I didn't offer coffee. I didn't ask how they were. I sat opposite them, steady and clear. "I'm not angry," I said. "But I won't let this repeat itself." My son nodded. His eyes cast down. Celeste said nothing. "I've made some changes regarding the house," I continued. Going forward, no one uses it without explicit permission from me. No drop-ins, no borrowed weekends. It's not a community center. It's not a wedding venue. It's my home. Celeste shifted, but didn't speak. And I need my keys back. He pulled his from his pocket immediately and placed it on the table. I looked at Celeste. She hesitated, her jaw tight. For a moment, I thought she might refuse. Then she reached into her bag and set a second key beside the first. It felt heavier than metal. "Thank you," I said, sliding both keys toward me. My son cleared his throat. "We didn't mean to hurt you." "I know," I said. But meaning doesn't erase what's been done. We sat in the quiet that followed. Not angry, not reconciled, just real. They stood to leave. My son gave a small nod on his way out. Celeste didn't meet my eyes, but she paused before stepping through the door. "This was harder than I thought," she murmured. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. After the door closed, I placed the keys in a small drawer in my desk and locked it. Then I turned off the porch light. The next sunrise would be mine. 6 months passed like the slow tide, quiet, steady, and sure. No more surprise weekends. No strange cars in the driveway. No rearranged furniture or wine-stained coasters left behind without apology. The house had finally settled back into its true rhythm, and so had I. I replaced the old cushions on the porch chairs, soft teal ones that reminded me of the ocean at noon. I bought them for myself and didn't ask anyone's opinion. A small act, maybe, but it felt like reclaiming something that had slowly been chipped away. Celeste texted now. Brief, polite messages. Would it be all right if we visited Saturday just for a few hours? Sometimes I said yes. Sometimes I didn't. She accepted both with equal grace. That too was new. My son came by on his own one afternoon with a fresh bag of coffee beans and a tentative smile. He sat with me on the porch, both of us staring out at the waves. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. I'd made new friends. Women I met through a local ceramics class, a few retirees who shared my love for quiet mornings and fresh air. We rotated porches and hosted simple lunches. No one assumed anything belonged to them. Everything was asked. Everything was respected. The cameras were still up, though I barely checked them anymore. Not out of fear, but as a reminder of what it took to protect peace. Not because I expected chaos, but because I'd finally learned that boundaries don't appear on their own. They have to be drawn, then held. I sat on the porch one evening as the sun dipped low behind the dunes. A breeze stirred the edge of the throw blanket over my lap, and I wrapped it tighter. Content. Inside the house was exactly how I left it. Nothing borrowed, nothing taken, just stillness, just mine. As the tide rolled in, I closed my eyes and breathed in deep. This wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning.